When you have a goalie tandem as successful as Boston's, the temptation is to break it up and try to add elsewhere. Rumors swirling in regards to Linus Ullmark and the Edmonton Oilers. We're going to break down why Edmonton would want to do that, why the Bruins don't want to do that, and also take a look at some paper roster moves that the Bruins made here on the new episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked Beat. Today is Wednesday, November 8th, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your day. Free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. And please do smash that subscribe button so that you never miss a thing. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. The Boston Bruins were off on Tuesday following their win over the Dallas Stars the night before. Back at practice here on Wednesday as they get ready to take on the New York Islanders Thursday evening. It's a bit of a in-between stage here between games. We're looking at some of these rumors flying around about the Edmonton Oilers pursuing a goaltender, and we'll discuss that here in a moment. First, a quick reminder, you can find the podcast at Locked NHL Bruins on X, Instagram, Threads. You can find me, my dad jokes, hockey thoughts, at the same places, at Ian C. McLaren. So one of the big pieces of news around the NHL on Tuesday was the Edmonton Oilers waiving goaltender Jack Campbell following a 6-2 loss to the Vancouver Canucks on Monday, Edmonton's third straight, and they are reeling near the bottom of the NHL standings, and that's not a place where you expect a team led by Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl to be. Right now, they are 2-8-1, 5 points, 2 more than the San Jose Sharks, who just won their first game of the season last night against the Philadelphia Flyers. Jack Campbell was placed on waivers for the purpose of assignment, and Mark Spector of Sportsnet wrote this the other day. The Jack Campbell contract is an albatross headed for a buyout, while the trajectory of Stuart Skinner, who could still be a fine netminder one day, does not jibe with the trajectory of this team. They can't wait for Skinner to mature. They need a goalie stat. Again, the Oilers placed Campbell, who is 1-4-0 with a 450 goals against average and an .873 save percentage on waivers for the purpose of an assignment. They recalled the goalie Calvin Pickard. Highly unlikely that Campbell and his $5 million cap hit for the next 3 seasons would be claimed. He'll be assigned to Bakersfield of the AHL on Wednesday. That leaves the Oilers with Skinner, who's 1-4-1 with an even worse save percentage, .856. And unless they really think that Calvin Pickard is the answer, then general manager Ken Holland is no doubt working the phones trying to add a goalie. And obviously, the first place to look is the Boston Bruins. They have the reigning Jennings Trophy tandem in Linus Ullmark, Jeremy Swayman. Ullmark, of course, won the Vezina Trophy last season, off to a very strong start, a .926 save percentage so far this season. Jeremy Swayman, even better, .952 save percentage to lead all goaltenders, and he's got a 1.49 goals against average. Now, here's where things get a bit tricky. The Boston Bruins have this goaltending tandem in play, making only 10.1% of Boston's cap space. Just an enviable position around the NHL. Any team would love to have Linus Ullmark, your Vezina Trophy winner, signed for $5 million. Jeremy Swayman signed for 3.475, but that's only for this season. So yes, it makes a ton of sense that the Oilers would see what the Bruins have and covet that. What would they be willing to give up? What could work? John Buccigross of ESPN floated a radical trade scenario a few days ago where he proposed Leon Draisaitl, Warren Foegele for Ullmark, Jake DeBrusk, Matt Poitras, Fabian Lysell, and Boston's first-round pick in 2026. Now, let's remember their pick for 2024 is top 10 protected. And if they fall within that, then it's deferred to 2025. As it seems at the moment, that protection will not come into play, and the Bruins will have their 2025 draft pick to make with this year's going to Detroit. Very radical trade proposal there. You are trading, again, the Vezina Trophy winner, Jake DeBrusk, who is an impending unrestricted free agent. And yeah, it's worth exploring options for him, perhaps, if it doesn't seem as though he's going to re-sign. But then your youth movement has been spurred on this season by the early arrival of Matt Poitras, Fabian Lysell waiting in the wings. He had a rough start to the season, but he has come on very strong over the last little bit. And I believe last time I checked, he's leading Providence in scoring with 9 points. Yes, Oscar Steen was recalled. He had 5 points through 5 games. Lysell, 3 goals, 6 assists through 10 games, leading the team with 9 points. So he's really picking it up. He's only 20 years old. Imagine him when he finally pops on Connor McDavid's wing. And then the 2026 first round pick. There's a couple things to take a look at here. And we will discuss the merits of this particular proposal, as well as trading either Ullmark or Swayman in general as the podcast continues. Passion, drive, and patience. These are things that bring home the winning trophy and also what keeps your ride alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, eBay Motors has you covered. They have over 122 million parts for your ride, and you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. With the eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, available only to U.S. customers. A new NHL season brings all kinds of possibilities. Charlie McAvoy could come back and win the Vezina Trophy. Linus Ullmark looking to defend his Vezina Trophy. And you can win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. It's our number one choice for daily fantasy sports because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you have to do is pick whether studs like Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon, will record more or less on their sleeper projections for goals, assists, plus minus, and more in a given game. To win a 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. So win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. Thank you so much once again for making Locked On Bruins part of your day, free and available on your favorite podcast app. And on tomorrow's show, we will preview Thursday's game against the New York Islanders, as well as do our weekly cup check where we look at the top 5 teams around the NHL and assess where the Bruins rank among them. It's my contention that a goalie trade should not happen for the Boston Bruins. You do not break up Linus Ullmark, Jeremy Swayman, the best tandem in the NHL, especially when they're making only 10% against the cap. The Bruins are getting league best goaltending with a tandem that's making under $9 million per season this year anyways. And it's pretty much the number one reason why they're off to a 10-1 start. I mentioned yesterday on the podcast that the Bruins' underlying numbers aren't especially strong. They are below 50% when it comes to shot attempts and shots for per game. And they lead the NHL with a save percentage at all strengths of, what's it at right now? 93.9. Just the shade better than the Vancouver Canucks, who are at 93.62. The Bruins have a fairly average shooting percentage at all strengths. They rank 15th, in fact, which is just around middle of the pack, 10.33. But it's their save percentage that is really lifting them to greater heights than expected this season. 5-on-5, Boston's shooting percentage drops to 8.79. Their save percentage is 94.55, and that's why they have a PDO of 103.3. The expectation is that could regress a bit, or they can maintain things by their scoring jumping up a bit at 5-on-5. But similar to last year, the exceptional goaltending is what is helping the Bruins this season. Yes, Jeremy Swayman is playing out of his mind and is putting together perhaps a Vezina level campaign of his own. But part of that is because of the tandem. They're rotating, and who knows what would happen if you subtract Ullmark and recall Brandon Bussy. A greater load on Jeremy Swayman. Bussy, yes, he's played great in the AHL and in preseason action for the Bruins, but can he carry even part of the load at the NHL level? It's a huge risk for the Bruins to break up this tandem at this time in this transition year, and then to give up Matt Poitras, Fabian Lysell, Jake DeBrusk on top of it. Yes, you'd be adding Leon Draisaitl, potentially Warren Foegele. But is that even something the Oilers want to do? Are they prepared to get rid of one of the top players in the NHL to add a goaltender and some youth and depth pieces? Keep in mind as well, Leon Draisaitl can become an unrestricted free agent after next season. He's making $8.5 million at the moment, so the Bruins would have to clear some other cap space. I guess DeBrusk would help with that. Foegele is at 2.75, but Following the 2024-25 season, Draisaitl will be due a monster contract extension, probably making him the top paid player in the NHL, comparable to what Austin Matthews is currently making or will be making beginning next season, 13.25. Say Draisaitl will come in at around 13.5 at least. That's a heavy commitment that the Bruins would have to make. At the end of the day, this goaltending tandem is what is largely helping the Bruins succeed early on this season. And Linus Ullmark has a no trade clause. He could kill any potential deal anyways. Does he want to move on from Boston and board that seemingly sinking ship in Edmonton, have all the pressure hoisted upon him to lift this team out of the mire? I highly doubt it. He feels very comfortable in Boston. He and Jeremy Swayman have a very special relationship. He, enjoys the city. He enjoys the team. He's got this year and next season left on his contract. Now, that's not to say a trade will never happen, right? Jeremy Swayman is a restricted free agent this coming offseason and will be due a fairly hefty raise if he keeps this up for sure. So if he's going to make more than Ullmark beginning next season, do you perhaps look to move Ullmark in the summer so that you're not carrying excessive cap space on your goalies alone? Maybe, but if the cap goes up, you can maybe absorb that as well. That might be the only situation where you consider trading Linus Ullmark, and he admitted that he thought it was possible this past summer. But speaking to Boston Hockey Now back in October, he said Boston feels like home. Everything surrounding hockey, off the ice, they know what to expect now. It feels like home. You have security for the kids, for his wife, and, it did cross his mind. It's the business part of hockey, the world they live in, but again, he has a no trade list. Even if he's presented with the chance to play with Connor McDavid, I mean, the Oilers are a less attractive team without Draisaitl. I don't think the Bruins at the end of the day want to trade Ullmark, want to break up that tandem. They don't want to trade Matt Poitras. They don't want to trade Fabian Lysell. The prospect cupboard is pretty thin as it is. They don't want to give up another first-round pick at this point, I don't think. Altogether, I don't see this trade happening. There was another idea floated by Drop the Mitts podcast, I believe, which was Ullmark for Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and a second-round pick. You're not doing that either. Nugent-Hopkins, he had 100 points last year, but that's a bit of an outlier. Second-round pick, they got Poitras with one, but that isn't very valuable. They would need at least a first back or a star player. And so I don't really see that one happening. At the end of the day, do not trade a goalie at this point. Perhaps it's something you look at in the offseason based on what Swayman's going to make, but I don't see that happening at this point. There were a couple roster moves made yesterday, and we'll see if they're paper moves or if there are actual implications to them here as the podcast continues. You can score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. And it's not just football. You can bet on basketball, the NHL. Their app is so easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options like spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. All you have to do is visit fanduel.com and use promo code LOCKEDON to get in on the action this NFL, NBA, and NHL season. Again, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. Visit fanduel.com/lockedon. FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL. If you're on cap friendly, as I was this morning, looking at all these numbers with respect to this trade, you see that the Bruins had three, in fact, players sent to the minors on Tuesday. Parker Wotherspoon, Oscar Steen, and Mason Lohrei. Now, one, two, or perhaps all three of these could be paper moves as the Bruins take advantage of being able to send guys up and down for the purpose of saving some money against the cap. But keep in mind, there are some players who are dinged up who could be ready to return to the lineup. You have Derek Forbort, who was considered day-to-day. Jacob Lauko, who had that eye injury. Steen was recalled for him. And Charlie McAvoy, currently suspended, but he was appealing that, could be reduced to 3 games, meaning he could play on Thursday, but that's highly unlikely. So let's assume McAvoy's still out. Matt Grzelcyk's still out. He's on LTIR at the moment. You have Lindholm, Carlo, Shattenkirk, Mitchell. So if Forbort's back, perhaps Lohrei comes back up, or Witherspoon. If Forbort's out, then both of those guys will come back up to play tomorrow night. So that's something to keep an eye on. Same with Oscar Steen. They have 12 forwards up at the moment. Patrick Brown could come in perhaps, or they recall Steen or somebody else and have them in the lineup for tomorrow night's game against the New York Islanders. So that's something to keep an eye on here on Wednesday as the Bruins get back to practice, preparing for this game against the Islanders. We'll preview this one a bit more tomorrow, of course, but the Islanders did lose last night to the Minnesota Wild, and we haven't really taken a look at the Metro division much this season, but the Islanders right now in a playoff spot. They are currently, where are they? Actually, they're outside looking in. They're tied with the Florida Panthers for the second wildcard spot, 13 points each, 591 point percentage. Florida with a -1 goal differential. The Islanders at -2. The Sabres have 13 points as well, although they've played 2 more games. So very early to look at the playoff picture, of course, but the Islanders currently 4th in the Metropolitan Division and in the thick of the playoff race. Few teams in the Metro really disappointing so far. The Penguins are in last place in the Atlantic. The Flyers, Blue Jackets, not much was expected of them. All 3 under 500. The Capitals, they are 550 point percentage, but a -9, which is the worst goal differential in the Metropolitan Division. So it's really looking at the moment like there could be 5 teams coming out of the Metro. The regular top 4, Boston, Tampa, Toronto, Florida in the mix, with Detroit still kicking around despite losing last night to the Rangers. Anyways, that's it for today's episode, my friends. Thank you so much for taking some time to join me on today's episode, discussing these Oilers trade rumors and why a goalie trade should not happen yet. At least keep that tandem together. Insane value, and one of the major reasons why the Bruins are 10-1-1. I hope you're all having a good week. Please do take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll talk to you again here tomorrow on a fresh episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.